mark whether you are an opponent or proponent. You don't have to mark anything. You can just be neutral. If you have a cell phone on you tonight, we'd appreciate it if you turn the ringer off. If you do need to take the call, we'd appreciate if you step outside of this room so you're not interfering with others who are speaking. At this time, I'll call the meeting to order. And as you can see on the screen, we have a few rules we follow as a board. Before I dive into the agenda, or the end, either side sign in. If for some reason you don't sign in, you'll limit your speaking time later in the meeting. Okay? Board members, we're going to go ahead with the approval of the minutes of June. Okay? It's a changes. Let me get to that part first. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? We'll consider those minutes of June 18th to be passed. The April 16th minutes, Luke, would you explain the issue we had with the April 16th minutes?
Sure, I will. After we had approved the minutes of the April 16th meeting, next day actually I received correspondence from Commissioner Gable, and he was hoping we would clarify what his proposal for ordinance was as presented in the public hearing portion of that April 16th meeting, and we updated it to reflect those changes, reflect what he had said.
Okay. We have a motion to approve the amended minutes, the amendment to the minutes. By Charles, we have a second. By Rodney. All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Consider those to be now approved. So, members, is there any other items to be added to our agenda tonight, either by you or by staff? Any other items to be added to the agenda? Okay. Is there anybody in the audience when we have the open session? It's 5 minutes near the end of the meeting to discuss something that was not placed on our agenda. Or can't take any action, but we can hear your request. Anything for the open? Seeing none, we'll move forward. There's nothing on the open.
I will point out one thing. I was contacted by Jody Ingalls, who has asked to speak on the planning commission open item, which will come up. We'll handle that when the planning commission comes up, but I didn't want anyone here expecting that to think we missed it. That will be afterwards.
Okay. So before we move forward, has any member of this board engaged in a conversation regarding these applications outside the meeting, which has predisposed, or in your estimation may be perceived to have predisposed you to a certain decision? By your silence, I'll consider that a no. Please state any relationships you may have with an applicant, or anyone who is providing testimony that may be perceived to predispose you to a certain decision, and whether you feel it will. In the case of today's meeting, it would be relevant if you have any wind easements with the applicant. Does anybody have a brother or sister-in-law or anything with the applicant? Okay?
I do have my sister.
Okay. Do you feel that's going to be any issue for you, that you're not going to get invited to Thanksgiving?
You don't want me to sit in?
No, if you're fine that you're not, it's not going to influence your decision tonight. I know you'd be a reasonable person. Okay, does anyone else, or do we have any other potential conflicts of interest? I would just say that Mr. Paul Johnson stopped in at my house, offered me a book to read, and Paul's a decent guy. I explained to him, and he didn't like it, but he understood.
I would like to object to him being a party if he has family that hasn't been released.
Well, I've known Rob for a while, and I know he's taken some hard votes before, so objection denied.
But it's noted for the
We'll note it, yeah. Paul offered me a book. I told him I couldn't read it because it was offered only to me wasn't offered to everybody. If something is put in the paper or put under the county's website that anybody and everybody can read, I can read it also. But a private book, I could not. Anyone else have any issues like that? Okay. So, before I take a motion on the agenda, I will again remind the public to sign in. I've just seen the gentleman sit down over there. And mark in the appropriate spot if you intend to speak as an opponent or a proponent. And we will gather those sheets up. We'll leave them out for a while. We'll gather them sheets up just before we take the Crown Ridge request, which Larry's isn't here. It's going to be sooner than we think. At this time now, I will take a motion to...
Before you do, is Larry Borkus here or anyone representing him here? If not, then I would say that you, for your agenda,
Well, he's on the agenda.
you may want to switch the order then, rather than take it up and postpone it. There's no point in postponing.
Okay. What we have is, Mr. Borges has not made payment, and it's the board's rule that no payment we don't take up. So, does someone want to make a motion that we switch the order around, take Crown Ridge first, and Mr. Borges at the end?
I'm going to make that change on the agenda.
By Myron, do we have a second? By Mel, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Okay, so the agenda is approved and it is amended. So, at this time, do you want to pick up the sheets, Luke?
Sure.
Yes, please. Before I ask for a motion, I will note how this hearing needs to be run based upon our bylaws. Board members will make a motion and a second to approve as presented by our staff. Our staff is Luke, and Luke will read his staff reports and comments. Then we will open the public hearing. We will call the applicant up front to address the board for not more than 15 minutes. And then Luke will call up to our microphone the proponents, those who would be in favor, to speak one at a time. You will have up to 3 minutes to address the board. If you are still talking at that point, I will ask you to briefly summarize the remaining points, but not take more than 30 seconds. At that point, I will have to ask you to sit down. All comments and questions need to be directed to only the board. Please avoid repetitive testimony and stick to the testimony relevant to how this application does or does not meet our ordinance. Once all the names have been read, I will allow anyone that did not sign up but has not spoken to come up and address the board for a limit of 1 minute. After proponent testimony, Luke will call up the opponents and the neutral parties. The same rules for testimony will apply to the opponents as well as the proponents. Luke and I, and hopefully other board members, will keep a log of the questions and comments for the applicant, so they can be asked at the conclusion of the public hearing. So we can ask the question. Once opponent testimony is completed, I will close the hearing and call the applicants back up. We will ask the questions from the board and the public that relate to the ordinance. After questioning the applicant, the board will hold its own discussion and ask questions related to the findings of fact. Then we will vote, and now that I have gone through the process, is there a motion to approve the wind energy application as will be read by staff?
So moved.
Motion by Rodney, seconded by Myron. Luke, when was this application received? It was received within time?
Yes, it was. It was received, June 4th with follow-up information coming on the 22nd of June.
Okay, and it was advertised correctly in the papers?
Correct.
Okay, would you give us your notes on this? Please?
Sure, and before I do start, I do want to point out just, I know sometimes people get confused by the sign-in sheet. If there is someone who, I call off when it becomes a public hearing time, and you did not plan on speaking, that's fine, just go ahead and note it. I know some people may have marked down and not intended to speak, so I'll be reading anyone who marked down that they were planning on. You're welcome to say the word.
Is there anyone in the audience who didn't get a chance to sign it? Just raise your hand and we'll bring you the sheet. Okay, seeing nobody, Luke, the floor is yours.
Sure. As noted here, as people are aware, the application here is by Crown Ridge and Crown Ridge 2 LLC on property in Leola, Germantown, Transford, North and South Waverly, and Rawville Townships. This property is located in the agricultural district as well as zones B and C of the Arctic Protection Overlay District. These portions are. Crown Ridge and Crown Ridge 2 are requesting to operate a wind energy system with up to 164 turbines, maintenance and support structures, and associated electrical transmission lines. They have identified over 40,000 acres of property signed up for easements in a project area that includes approximately 42,000 acres. And that was some figuring that I had done. It'll have wind towers, electrical transmission lines, 2 substations, met towers in operations, and maintenance buildings. Met towers, for what it's worth, are the measuring towers that are already up and in place. The project includes underground electrical lines that collect electricity from turbines and feed overhead main transmission lines, which run for 9 miles, approximately 9 miles of the county. The electrical lines exit Codington County at the intersection of 160th Street and 466th Avenue. Each turbine will have an access road. Each turbine will be connected via fiber optic cable for communications with the tower. 2 substations are proposed with this project, one in section 27, 11851, and one in 11, 11851. An operations and maintenance building is proposed in 27, 11851. Up to 4 permanent met towers or meteorological towers are planned with this project. It may include temporary concrete batch plants during construction. All activities will meet the applicable setbacks for batch plants if that does happen. And the project includes 164 wind towers. The areas and the green dots represent where wind towers will be located. Obviously, the scale shows up a lot better on there than it did on my map, but you can see kind of the concentration where they're at. The most in any one section is 4. One standard section township range section. Moving along to the reference to the Codington County zoning ordinance. This application, as stated, is in the agricultural district, which has been in and has always been considered the least restricted district in which industrial uses are allowed in this county. Land use plan does allow for that. That is the document that declares residential uses incompatible with ag uses, but does support the endeavor of wind energy generation. Portions of the project area are located over zone B and C of the Arctic Protection District. Wind energy systems are allowed in zone B, provided performance standards are met. The applicant, and as far as that goes, I did speak with Jay Gilbertson of East Dakota Water Development District to ask him point blank if he could foresee any issues with a wind farm of this, or frankly any size, over the aquifer. And he pointed out that the risk here wouldn't be any greater than any other use that he could see allowed over that in that district, such as an ag use of any kind, any other ag use. The applicant proposes to meet the requirement that storage of petroleum products in quantities exceeding 100 gallons at one spot in one tank or a series of tanks must be an elevated tank. Such tanks larger than 1,100 gallons must have secondary containment as necessary for the Board of Adjustment, and historically the board has required secondary containment, and that's just spoiler required as a condition. The applicant does not intend to discharge industrial process wastewater, and the zoning ordinance lists numerous requirements of the energy system. Did do a breakdown. I'm not going to bore everyone with the details of that breakdown, but I will briefly read it. few of the notes into there as things came in or were noticed. I probably have to zoom that in. Reference to where in the application the information was found and some other information. As far as a lot of the sections, of course, they're met in there at least as continuing obligations as far as how they have to be met. The applicant is expected to provide local contact and mitigate maintenance issues for roads, structures during construction, operation, and decommissioning. I didn't have that in there, but it would also be as they would tear things down, to keep that information updated. So the erosion sediment control plan would be submitted prior to the commencement of the construction. Proposed tower locations appear to meet or exceed setbacks for off-site use of participating residents and property lines and right of way. It suggests that the applicant does intend to conduct a beam study with regards to radio signals, electromagnetic interference. They do agree to request alternative means of lighting, including aircraft protection lighting, but will adhere to the requirements of the FAA for each tower. More on that in just a minute. Rotor diameter was specified per tower per location based on the size of the towers, which is, you can see a little bit below there. 338 feet to 381 feet. That's my own conversion from metric to English. Final decommissioning plan to be submitted when required by ordinance. Tower heights for 2.3 megawatt towers, 486 feet is my conversion. 253 feet on 2.1 megawatt towers, 432 feet on 1.7 megawatt towers. They are listed in the ordinance as far as in the application as far as where they are proposed. A noise study was provided with the application. See that there were no sites, no property lines at the sites of residences that had greater than 50 decibels at that property line. A flicker report was also submitted in that same appendix with the application. You can also see that no properties are shown to have more than 30 hours of flicker at the receptor at the site at the building, as was a requirement of the ordinance. In between, I took the opportunity to contact the counterpart of the Public Utilities Commission and attorney there. Just to follow up on some information that was submitted and some concerns, questions that were submitted on Friday. First part was a question that I had asked as far as how decommissioning was handled at the Public Utilities Commission with regards to the Crocker Wind Farm. There was a little bit of confusion about that, and what it amounted to was that with that particular request, the PUC required $5,000 per year per tower for up to 30 years to be stored, kept for decommissioning. It was said that it could be expected that a similar amount of revenue would be required. However, it was also noted that it really depends, of course, case by case as it comes up. But one of the things that was mentioned was that there may be a point if that particular case at Crocker they didn't take into account the salvage value of the materials, they may or may not take into account that. That's really pie in the sky at this point. There was a question on property value. I wanted to follow up because there was a question on some testimony. So there was some testimony presented that was presented with regards to the Crocker case at the PUC. The testimony was from David Lawrence, a land appraiser, in reference to a question that the staff had at the PUC regarding research that was conducted by Crocker Wind Farm from, areas outside of the state. The conclusion from that, there were several conclusions. One of the things, probably the main thing that was underscored to me from staff out at CUC was that there was a need for additional study as far as whether or not, property values in the state of South Dakota, would be negatively affected by wind applications. And, however, further on in on May 4th, more research by Mr. David Lawrence was submitted, in which he continued his research in Brookings County with reference to those wind towers. According to the PUC staff, it was found and determined that, in Brookings County at least, the wind towers did not significantly decrease property values. He did point out that that's still not a statewide study. I would point out, as I said before, however, and again, I'm not a appraiser, but we do have similar demographics. We have very similar land use policies. We each have a 35-acre rural, and we each have a population center in the middle of our county. Similar other demographics as well. Should also note that that's not specifically a condition of our ordinance, but I wanted to verify those things and just follow up on that information. Applicant did provide information regarding future locations of permanent meteorological towers, as was noted. They'd be considered accessory, as would the substation and the operations and maintenance building. Applicant agrees to submit decommissioning plan haul road agreements as required by ordinance and along with other documents. Applicant agrees to meet state federal requirements regarding permitting and interference with communications. As far as the summary, the motion approves the construction of the wind energy facility on properties referenced in the application in a manner that meets the terms of the ordinance. Specific information provides the board with more detail to make the decision. The final siting is allowed to change as long as it's done in conformance with the requirements of the ordinance and upon the properties described in the application. Can't move off of the property or can't move outside of the properties within the application. Towers can't get taller, can't go out of conformance with the ordinance. The applicant has provided documentation of its ability to meet the requirements of the zoning ordinance in reference to the proposed wind energy system. The board has the ability to attach conditions to this request, provided there's a logical reason to do so. Staff does expect a good chance that people might want to talk about this. I'll be stepping back in a moment here, but as evidenced by approval of many permits and existing farmstead exemptions that we granted, this board's got the history of issuing permits to folks who meet the conditions spelled out in our ordinance. Similar to farmstead exemptions granted to many people that are here in this meeting today. Board's got a history of the conditions they bring. So, it appears based on what I've got so far, I'm sure others may review it, that I have met the conditions of the ordinance. However, that's really up to you to decide. The board may postpone the request, deny the request, or approve it, obviously. If approved, it's recommended that conditions similar to past wind energy systems, as approved by this board, be attached, and those would be that the effective date is upon the issuance of a permit by the Public Utilities Commission. The permit shall expire if either no construction as described in the application has commenced within 3 years of the issuance of the County Board of Adjustment, or if a state permit from the South Dakota PUC has not been issued within 2 years of the issuance of the Board of Adjustment, or within 3 years of the final decision regarding any appeal to circuit court relating to the issuance of the permit. The applicant may apply for an extension of this permit if the requirements of 1B cannot be met. The conditional use permit is transferable. Subsequent owners and operators shall agree to the same conditions described herein. I will not reiterate, I'll just point out that the same conditions as required of the Aquifer Protection District are carried forward in the general requirements. And also, the grantor shall provide the zoning office with an updated local contact information plan supervisor with the authority to implement dust control and other necessary enforcement of the conditions of this permit. The Letter 3 holds the applicant to continue to meet the obligations of the zoning ordinance. We can see the plans, the outstanding information that will still be required. And they acknowledge that the board will require some form of financial assurance to cover the anticipated cost of decommissioning on or before July 16th, 2023, which is a requirement of the ordinance. Process for violation and penalties is that a violation of the requirements of the ordinance relating to the operation of the tower will result in the enforcement of penalties in reference to the specific tower found to be in violation and will be enforced as described below, which is the first violation substantiated by the zoning officer of this conditional use permit may result in notification letter stating the violation and a prescribed period of time to remove the violation. Second violation within a calendar year may result in a review of the validity of the permit with reference to that site. A third violation within the calendar year of the initial violation may result in the revocation of the conditional use permit in reference to that site. The applicant may make appeal from the decision of the zoning officer. The applicant shall file with the zoning office a notice of appeal within 30 days of whatever decision may be made. And of course, once the board makes a decision, they have the ability to appeal back to circuit court. Failure to comply with the decision of the zoning officer or other agent of the board of adjustment does constitute separate offenses.
Okay, thank you. Luke, you're as familiar with our ordinance and the application probably as anybody. Is there anything in this application that does, to your knowledge, not meet our ordinance requirements, ordinance 68?
Based on my review, there's nothing that does not meet ordinance 68.
Okay. For background, ordinance 68 is about 6 days old. The board has been going line by line and with the help of many of the audience members, the applicant also, reviewing the ordinance so that it's more current and updated to what is necessary. So at this time, we're working with an ordinance that, as I said, is only 6 days old. I will ask at this time, are the applicants ready to present your case? Okay, Stuart, come on up, state your name. And again, we'll allow you approximately 15 minutes.
Hold it closer. That one you do have to have real close.
Tyler Wilhelm with Next Era Energy Resources. Today I have a brief presentation. Well, first and foremost, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and the board. Good to see you all again. Tonight I have a brief presentation with respect to the recent filing of the CUP application for the Commerce Wind projects here in Codington County. Tonight's agenda, we'll do a brief touch on who we are as a company, dive into our regional development and our history in the area. We'll get more in touch with some of the high-level topics with the Congress project in Codington County for the filing. We'll touch on the project timeline and then share with you some of the community benefits tied to the Congress projects. So our company is founded on 3 core values. First one being our commitment to excellence. The picture you see there on the far left is actually a picture of one of our teammates in our FPDC office, which is our Fleet Performance Diagnostic Center. In that building, we're actually able to monitor every single turbine across the NextEra wind fleet, which is comprised of 21,000 megawatts. At any point in time, they'll be able to address an issue as it's happening and deploy wind tech before that issue arises into something and becomes a bigger problem. One of the ways that we continue to raise the bar for the industry standard. Secondly, we do the right thing. Being a company from out of state, coming up here 10 years now, developing in eastern South Dakota, we realize that we have to be transparent with our communications as well as live up to our commitments. It's something that we take very seriously. Third one being treat people with respect. Not only are we a developer, but we're also the owner and operator of the majority of our sites. With that being said, the next outfit and logo will be in the project area for the longevity of the project's lifespan. In many cases, we have repowered sites, some of our initial sites, and for that to be an opportunity for us to pursue, we obviously have to establish a relationship within the community. And Golden Rule is one of the places where we start. So our parent company, Nexar Energy, is an energy infrastructure company. It is comprised of two strong subdivisions. First one being Florida Power and Light, which is the in-state public utility, and it is voted the most admired utility in the country. Second one being Nexar Energy Resources, which is us, who is the number one generator of electricity from the wind and sun in North America. We are American owned and operated, and we have investments in 32 states and Canada. The green dots that you see spread across North America there, those represent our operating wind locations. There's roughly 130 of those dots. And as you'll notice, there is 3 dots in the state of South Dakota, which represent our 3 operational wind farms that we have. And in 2017, we were the world's #1 generator of wind and solar energy. Okay, regional development. As you can see, this picture is much bigger than Codington County, but I feel it's important that we paint the full picture here. Our development commenced as far back as 2006, so we've been developing these sites for over 10 years now. Deployed land agents and as well as met instruments to start gauging the wind resource in the area.
See some people in the back, like they can.
Is that better? Okay, great. To repeat myself here, we commenced development in Codington County back as far back as 2006. We've been developing these sites for over 10 years now. At that time is when we deployed our initial fleet of land agents to the area to begin interacting with local constituents and landowners. And at that point, we also deployed our wind instruments to start gathering wind data in the area. About 6 years later, in 2012, was a big year for the wind industry in eastern South Dakota, for that matter. When regional transmission infrastructure projects were implemented. Many of you are probably really familiar with these projects or live in close proximity to them, being the Big Stone to Ellendale line and the Big Stone to Brookings line. During that 6-year lapse, land acquisition continued, and we now have 6 years of viable wind data approved that this is truly a suitable area to accommodate a project of this magnitude. 2016, Near and Excel entered into long-term power purchase agreements totaling 600 megawatts of wind energy. The sites, as proposed today, have a commercial operations date for December 31st, 2019. And that's the footprint there you see to the right. 2 projects spanning across three separate counties. Okay, for the Crown Ridge projects, specific to the Codington County footprint, we have a project boundary of roughly 55,000 acres in Codington County. Within those 55,000 acres, we do have active wind lease agreements with nearly 40,000 of those acres. There's 164 proposed turbine locations, which equates to roughly 370 megawatts. And we have 2 collector substations which will house the energy generated from the wind turbines, and where they'll use approximately 9 miles of overhead transmission to get the transmission lines started on their route to the point of interconnection. So as many of you are aware in the audience today, and everybody who's seated up front here, over several months we visited the local ordinance that was in place. We'd like to commend the Planning Commission as well as the County Commissioners on taking the necessary time to look into this, taking information, public testimony, and questions, and ultimately come out with a product which is now Ordinance 68, which as mentioned earlier, further ensures the public health, safety, and wellness of the local constituents. This here basically shows the former ordinance of 65, how it progressed to 68, what the difference is, and essentially how the Crown Ridge projects, the siting criteria utilized. Setback from participating homes is 550 feet, plus another 2.5 feet for each additional vertical foot, more than 500 feet height. The towers that are proposed on the Crown Ridge site do not exceed 500 feet, so the 2.5 additive is not in the picture there. Our siting practice, it well exceeds what is required. We are roughly in the 1,600 foot range, which is some of the shorter distances that you'll see as far as proximity to homes. For non-participating, it was increased by 500 feet, so 1,500 feet setback. As far as how the Crown Ridge sites comply, as mentioned before, we are over 1,500 feet, and oftentimes are well exceed that because of noise and shadow filter compliance setback requirements. The biggest additive here was the town district setback of 5,280 feet, which is a mile. We will comply with that. After 10 years of developing in the area and having a solid footprint, having something like that implemented was an obstacle for us. It was something that we openly embraced, of course, and talked to you guys about publicly, and we're able to mitigate and move forward. So I'm happy to announce that. For flicker analysis, previously there was not anything in the ordinance that required any limit on shadow flickers on receptors within the project area. 30 hours has been implemented, and it shall not exceed 30 hours. The Crown Ridge projects do comply with that requirement. Quick jog through the project timeline here. 2006 to present, still gathering wind data. The identified land and land acquisition process is coming to a close here in 2018 as we tie together the final pieces of the overall regional footprint. Permitting commenced in 2018. This is actually the first process that was started at the local level. Is in Codington County. We will soon proceed in the adjacent counties in Grant and Dual as well. Pending everything goes as planned with the local permitting process, we will begin construction in 2019. Complete everything up to be commercial operations date is December 31st, 2019, and beginning operations first day of 2020. Community benefits associated with the projects. Very, very big project and a big win for the state. Being $1 billion invested in the state of South Dakota with these projects. Generate roughly $90 million in property taxes into the county. $98 million in landowner payments. 7 to 12 full-time local jobs created, which this project is actually in a very fine location when considering proximity to SDSU, which has the Wind Application Center that we're working with currently, as well as Lake Area Tech. There'll be improvements made to roads. The projects are compatible and cited in needs, which they are compatible with farming and ranching operations as they are today. And support of organizations, groups, and events is something that we pride ourselves on and hopefully have the opportunity to pursue moving forward. Last thing noted is working with Next Energy Resources and Excel Energy, the partnership that we have there as owners and operators of these two sites. Two very stable, well-perceived companies, and we're excited to work with them on this venture. Conclusions. The Crown Ridge Wind Energy projects meet or exceed the newly codified Codington County Ordinance 68, as mentioned in the staff report. We do support the staff's recommendations and conditions as outlined in the staff report. We will continue to work openly with Codington County to finalize the project's development as we progress in the adjacent counties and solidify the full 600 megawatt footprint. And lastly, noting, we respectfully request that the Board of Adjustments approval of the Crown Ridge CP application as outlined in the staff report. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Luke? when this was received, was ordinance 65 still in effect?
Yes, it was.
But we're going to hear it under ordinance 68 since that's the issue.
That's right, that's the law of the land today, is ordinance
Okay.
68.
Okay. So, at this time, we will go ahead and start the public hearing. And Luke will be calling out names of people who marked that they were proponents. And here's how it works. The microphone that he has there now seems to have a little better quality. But we want everybody in the room to be able to hear, so I'm looking at a couple of people back there before, so if you can't hear somebody, I'll try to get them to get closer to the microphone. You will be getting a speaking time of 3 minutes. Becky will be putting your 3 minutes on the iPad here. When your 3 minutes is up, I will give you 30 seconds to go ahead and try to summarize your thoughts. For some people, 3 minutes goes by really fast. But Abraham Lincoln was able to do the Gettysburg Address in slightly under 3 minutes. So, with that, if you are exceeding 3 minutes, I will have to be a jerk and ask you to stop. So Luke, are you ready to call our first proposal?
I am. I want to make a couple of points here as I'm trying to write these down, so I've got them back and forth, proponent, opponent. I will point out, if someone marked down that they were here for a certain agenda item but didn't mark down that they were a proponent or opponent, I'm going to put you in what's called the opponent or neutral. It'll be the second part, so maybe you'll be there. The other part is if you check both boxes as proponent or opponent, you would also go in what's called the opponent or neutral. That would be the second part. Those are the main points I want to point out. And then the other thing is, I'm going to try not to be disrespectful. I'm going to keep on trying to write names down while we're doing this. But first name, proponent, and if you did not intend to speak, go ahead and state it. Doug Crandall. And Doug, is that the first right name? Is there Crandall? Daryl Crandall? It was not as a proponent? Okay. I will move that over. What about Ed and/or Anita Randall? Did either of you want to speak? Or both?
When you come up, if you would tell us what township you're from. And if you have a question, Luke and I are going to try to write it down, and the applicants will be coming up at the end, and we will be asking them their questions at that time.
Okay, I'm Anita Randall, and I am Cransford Township, and I am for the wind power. And we live under two communication towers where they flicker all night, and that doesn't seem to bother us because the lights or the curtains isn't open. And the noise factor, people have said, oh, it's too noisy. But we live by a dairy farm that has fans, and they run, and they are loud. And so I do not think anything could be that as loud as them. And then they complain about the roads. You haven't driven on our township roads then, if they're gonna make them better. I mean, the equipment around them, the semis and everything have just ruined our roads. And this is a good opportunity to get those roads back in shape. And we are, like I said, I am for the wind power, bringing all the the money in. We as farmers have the right as our land to use it and make the profit what we can. So yes, we are for the wind power.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Did you mention Bob? Bob, did you wish to speak also?
Yes. Ed, did you want to speak?
Sorry. Okay.
I wrote down the representatives from NextEra. I think given they had their presentation, I don't know what we need to. And please, if I read one of your names, just let us know that we've already spoken. Brittany Bruce, are you with NextEra too? Brittany? Okay. I will admit there was one that I am not even going to try for an address, but it did, or for a name, because I couldn't read it, but I don't know if this person for sure planned on speaking, but the address is 46087 158th Street on the individual. If that's your address, did you intend to speak? at this point? Okay. Okay, I'll leave that one open. Rob Lewis? What's that?
No.
No, okay. Scott Baker? With Nextera. Jay Healy, you with Nextera as well?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yvonne Pauley? Would you like to speak? Okay.
I'm Yvonne Pauley of Watertown now. My pasture is in Twin Brooks Township in Grant County. And I've been watching the development of wind power since its inception. And I'm really anxious to see the results.
Okay, thank you.
Karen Casperson.
Karen Casperson. We live in Sheridan Township in Watertown, but the Mazeppa Section 1 is with the Crown Bridge. At this time, the land is not in with the wind turbines, but we need to harvest the gift of wind. The land was purchased in 1950, 68 years ago, and Oscar Casperson said, "Wouldn't it be great if we had wind generators?" That's a long time ago, but maybe we can have the revenue dollars that result from this development of wind. We need the opportunity to use our land for wind production and for affordable electrical power. We need the opportunity to have those revenues that come from this development. We are in favor of wind power, and we pray that as commissioners that the permits can go forward and there can be construction.
Okay, thank you.
Leon Sparks, did you want to speak?
No.
Okay. Karen Spellman?
No.
Okay. Angel Sparks?
My name is Angel Sparks, and I live in Cransford Township, and I am a proponent of the wind power. And I don't know, maybe this is right or wrong, I don't know, but I feel that how many years ago when they came out with the highline wires and towers and lines, obviously nobody said no to that electricity back then, and I like to think that this is just another form of power that's going to be good for our area. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to say Michael Stilwell with Nextera. Good. And now the next one had a check on the line, so I'm not sure. Was it Julie Vogt or Linda Hayduck? Would either of you have planned on speaking? No. Okay. Okay. Tom Rammel? No speaking. Okay. Another name that I'm not sure of was next to Tom, Mildred Rammel? I tried. Okay. Roger Fulham?
No.
Okay. Harry Older? Next there. Okay. And I'm caught up to my list now. I'm going to do my best at trying to read these. Miles Schumacher is with Crown Bridge. Sam Massey with Crown Bridge. Very well known. Better mark those. Bonnie Frisbee? No? Don't need to speak.
We're gonna cut Luke a little slack, because I'm looking over his shoulders and I thought my handwriting was bad.
Well, this sheet's really good. Leo Canas? You want to speak?
I'm for the wind towers. I've been having that power on the land since they started putting them up, working for the light and power at the beginning and next hour, and I've been very satisfied. The power went down a couple times and put it right back up. And with the wind towers, net towers were a little bit weaker with ice, and had no problems. And I'm definitely in favor of wind power. It's a lot of that land they put it on is marginal land, and we need all the help we can with the way the tax structures went with marginal land. I'm definitely for it.
Where do you own?
Leola Township.
Thank you.
Mark Franzen? Do you intend to speak?
Codington. I live in the center of this project, 2 miles east of Waverly, Waverly Township. I'm in favor of it, mostly for financial reasons. If they can get them up and the farmers can put in, or get $98 million, usually they say, if it goes to town, it's 3 times that when they spend it. So overall, it should be okay, and it's our land, we should be able to do what we want. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mark.
That is the end of the list that I had specifically identified as proponents at this point. Some did mark both and some left them empty.
Okay, we're still ready then. Did anybody who wished to speak not get their name called? Did you sign the sheet, sir?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
There's a chance I could have.
You messed up the name.
Okay, sorry.
Well, okay.
My name is Mark Lewick. I'm for the wind power.
Can you get closer to me?
I guess I'm for the wind power. Apparently we don't have enough power to have air conditioning in here. So I gotta be for it. You know, my point of view is a little different from some of them. Because I've been to third world countries and I've seen the people without power. And I know the difficulties they have on their lives. And I think to myself, there's 330 million people in this country, and that's going to compound itself over time and over generations. And I asked my neighbor this morning, who's 84, and he's about ready to pass away. And I said, Alan, do you remember when your parents turned that switch on their house for the first time? And he didn't say anything. But I seen a tear in his eye. Because it meant something to him